The acceptance email glowed on my phone screen. Congratulations, you've been selected for the International Youth Leadership Summit in Geneva, Switzerland. All expenses paid, July 15-30. I read it 5 times, my hands shaking. This was everything. 2 weeks learning from global leaders, networking with students from 40 countries, workshops at the United Nations. I'd beaten 300 applicants for one of 20 spots. I ran downstairs, nearly tripping over our dog. Dad was in the kitchen, reading the newspaper like it was still 1995. Dad, I got in, the Geneva Summit. They're paying for everything except the flight, and I have enough saved from my job to... He didn't look up. When is it? July 15th through 30th. Now he looked up. His expression made my stomach drop. That's the week of the family reunion. You know your grandmother's 80th birthday is July 20th. My excitement faltered. I know, but Dad, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The United Nations, global leaders, 20 students in the entire world. Family comes first, Kendra. You're not going. If only he'd known what that dismissal would cost him. I stood there frozen. What do you mean I'm not going? Exactly what I said. This family reunion has been planned for a year. Your grandmother specifically requested all her grandchildren be there. You're not missing it for some conference. It's not some conference. It's the most prestigious youth leadership program in the world. Dad folded his newspaper with deliberate slowness. And your grandmother's 80th birthday happens once. The answer is no. End of discussion. He walked out. Just like that. 15 years of perfect grades, community service, leadership roles, all dismissed because of a family barbecue. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. Instead, I walked back to my room, closed the door, and made a decision. I wasn't asking for permission anymore. I was 18, legally an adult. If he wouldn't support my dreams, I'd pursue them anyway. And when I succeeded, he'd realize exactly what he'd tried to take from me. I pulled out my laptop and started planning. This wasn't rebellion. This was survival. My dad wasn't always like this, or maybe I just noticed it differently as I got older. When I was little, he was my hero. He coached my soccer team, helped with science projects, taught me to change a tire before I could even drive. But somewhere around middle school, things shifted. It started with small comments. That award is nice, but don't let it go to your head. You did well, but your cousin did better. Success is good, but family loyalty is more important. My older brother Cameron could do no wrong. When he got a football scholarship, Dad threw a huge party. When my younger sister Autumn made varsity cheerleading, he bought her custom gear. But when I won the state debate championship, he said, "Nice, but debate won't pay the bills like Cameron's scholarship will." I used to think I was being sensitive, but my best friend Josie noticed. "Your dad treats your achievements like they're threatening," she said once. I didn't want to believe it, but the pattern was undeniable. And now, this, the biggest opportunity of my life, dismissed without consideration. That night, I made a list of every time he'd minimized my accomplishments. The list was longer than I expected. I had 6 weeks until the summit. I needed a plan. First, money. The organization covered everything except the international flight, which was $200. I had $800 saved from my part-time job at the library. I needed $400 more. I picked up extra shifts, started tutoring neighborhood kids in math, and sold some old electronics. Within 3 weeks, I had $350. Enough for the flight and some spending money. Second, logistics. I couldn't tell my parents I was going, or they'd stop me. So I told them I was spending 2 weeks at Josie's family lake house, something we'd done before. Josie agreed to cover for me, though she was nervous. "Kendra, what if something goes wrong?" "Nothing will go wrong. I'll have my phone. I'll check in regularly. They'll never know." Third, the passport. I already had one from a school trip to Canada. Check. By mid-June, everything was arranged. Flight booked, accommodation confirmed by the summit organizers, cover story established. I felt guilty lying, but what choice did I have? He'd forced this situation. I was just adapting to survive. The week before I left, Dad was in an unusually good mood. He was excited about the family reunion, talking constantly about seeing relatives, the big party for Grandma, the activities he'd planned. "It'll be good to have everyone together," he said at dinner. All my kids, showing respect for family. That's what matters in life, Kendra. Not chasing individual glory, but being part of something bigger. The irony wasn't lost on me. Cameron would be there, fresh off his first year of college football. Autumn would be there, cheerful and uncomplicated. And I would supposedly be there, the dutiful daughter, smiling and pretending I didn't have dreams beyond family barbecues. Except I wouldn't be there. I'd be in Geneva, surrounded by the best and brightest young people in the world, learning from Nobel laureates and diplomats. Mom asked if I was excited about the lake house trip with Josie. Very excited, I said, the lie tasting bitter. 2 weeks of swimming and relaxing, just what I need before senior year starts. She smiled. That sounds perfect, honey. You've been working so hard. You deserve a break. The guilt twisted in my stomach, but not enough to change my mind. July 14th arrived. I told my parents I was leaving for Josie's lake house at 6 a.m. to beat traffic. I'd actually booked a 9 a.m. flight to Geneva via New York. I barely slept. At 5:30 a.m., I loaded my suitcase into Josie's car. She was driving me to the airport, still worried. Are you absolutely sure about this? Completely sure. Your dad is going to lose his mind when he finds out. Let him. The drive to the airport was quiet. At departures, Josie hugged me tight. Text me when you land. And Kendra, I'm proud of you. Even if this blows up, you're doing something incredible. The flight felt surreal. As we lifted off, I looked down at the city getting smaller below and thought about my family, 30 miles away, completely unaware that I'd just made the biggest decision of my life. The passenger next to me asked if I was traveling for business or pleasure. Education, I said. The most important trip I've ever taken. Somewhere over the Atlantic, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Have fun at the lake. Send pictures. I would send pictures, just not from where she expected. Geneva was breathtaking. The summit housing was at a university campus near the lake, with views of the Alps in the distance. Check-in was smooth, and within hours I was meeting my fellow participants. 20 students from 20 countries: Japan, Brazil, South Africa, India, Australia, Germany, Mexico. Everyone brilliant, driven, passionate about changing the world. The opening ceremony was that evening. The director, a former ambassador to the UN, welcomed us. You are here because you represent the future of global leadership. This is not a vacation. This is intensive training in diplomacy, policy, ethics, and international cooperation. You will be challenged. You will grow. And you will leave here as part of a network that will shape the next generation. I felt electricity in my veins. This was exactly where I needed to be. That night, I texted my parents a photo Josie had sent me, a lake sunset she'd taken weeks ago. Beautiful here, having a great time, Mom replied with a heart emoji. Dad didn't respond. The family reunion was in 5 days. I'd cross that bridge when I came to it. The summit was intense and extraordinary. Morning sessions featured lectures from UN officials, economists, and human rights advocates. Afternoons were workshops, negotiation simulations, policy debates, ethical dilemmas. Evenings were cultural exchanges where we shared our country's challenges and perspectives. I was partnered with a student named Amara from Kenya for a project on sustainable development. She was intimidating, sharp, already involved in grassroots organizing back home. Why are you here? She asked during our first work session. To learn, to connect, to figure out how I can make a difference. That's generic. Everyone says that. What's your real reason? I thought about it. My family doesn't take my ambitions seriously. I'm here to prove to myself that I'm capable of more than they think. She nodded. That's honest. Use that fuel. Channel it. We worked late into the night, building a proposal for rural education funding. For the first time in months, I felt intellectually alive. The next morning, July 20th, I woke to 17 missed calls and 32 text messages. My stomach dropped. The family reunion. They knew. The messages ranged from confused to furious. Mom. Kendra, where are you? Josie's mom said you're not at the lake house? Cameron. Dad is losing it. Where the hell are you? Autumn. Everyone's asking about you. What's going on? And Dad. Call me immediately. This is unacceptable. I took a deep breath and called Mom first. She answered on the first ring. Kendra, where are you? Your father is. I'm in Geneva. Silence. Switzerland. For the leadership summit I told you about, the one Dad forbade me to attend? You lied to us? Her voice was small, hurt. I didn't have a choice. He wouldn't let me go. Mom, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. I couldn't give it up for a family barbecue. It's your grandmother's 80th birthday. And I sent her a card and a gift. I love Grandma, but Mom, this is my future, my education, my dreams. I could hear Dad in the background, demanding the phone. Mom's voice became muffled as she tried to hold him off. Then his voice, sharp and controlled. You come home immediately or you're cut off. No car, no phone plan, no college fund, nothing. His threat hung in the air. I felt my resolve waver, then harden. Dad, I'm 18. I'm legally an adult. I paid for this trip myself. You can't force me home. The hell I can't. You're part of this family and you will respect family obligations. I do respect family, but I also respect myself. And I'm not giving up this opportunity because you can't handle that. I have ambitions beyond your approval. His voice dropped to that dangerous quiet tone. If you don't come home, you're no longer my daughter. The line went dead. I sat on my dorm bed, hands shaking. He'd actually said it. Disowned me for pursuing education. My roommate, a girl named Lucia from Argentina, touched my shoulder gently. Family? Yeah. They'll come around. Parents say things in anger they don't mean. I wasn't sure, but I couldn't leave. I'd sacrificed too much to be here. I texted Cameron, "Tell Dad I'm staying. Tell Grandma I love her. I'll be home in a week." Then I turned off my phone and went to my morning session on conflict resolution. The irony wasn't lost on me. Over the next week, I threw myself into the summit. If I was going to blow up my family relationships, I needed this to be worth it. The Mid-Summit Project was a mock UN negotiation on climate policy. I was assigned to represent a developing nation balancing economic growth with environmental protection. The debate was fierce, technical, passionate. I argued for technology transfers and financial support from developed nations, citing specific policy frameworks and economic models. When it ended, the session leader, a former climate negotiator, pulled me aside. That was exceptional advocacy. Have you considered international relations as a career? I'm thinking about it. You should. You have the skills and the conviction. Here's my card. Stay in touch. That night, there was a formal reception at a hotel overlooking Lake Geneva. Dignitaries, business leaders, and Summit alumni attended. I wore the one nice dress I'd packed and felt completely out of my depth. Until I started talking to people. A tech entrepreneur from Berlin discussed innovation policy. A nonprofit director from Nairobi explained grassroots fundraising. A journalist from São Paulo described investigative reporting in dangerous regions. I was in my element, asking questions, making connections, learning. This was what I'd come for. This was what Dad couldn't understand. The final days of the summit were bittersweet. We completed our projects, presented findings, and received certificates in a closing ceremony. The director called each of us up individually, highlighting our contributions. Kendra Morrison, she announced, demonstrated exceptional analytical skills and diplomatic acumen in her policy work. She has a bright future in international affairs. The applause felt surreal. These people, experts and leaders, were recognizing something in me that my own father refused to see. After the ceremony, I finally turned my phone back on. Dozens of messages awaited, but one stood out. From Josie. Your dad saw the summit photos on the organization's Instagram. They tagged you. He knows everything now. My stomach dropped. The summit had been posting daily photos of activities. I'd been visible in several group shots. There was no hiding anymore. I scrolled through the family group chat I'd been avoiding. The messages told a story. Confusion, then anger, then something unexpected. Grandma had written, I saw Kendra's pictures from Switzerland. I'm so proud of her. She's doing something extraordinary. Let the girl learn and grow. Even she had seen the posts. I flew home on July 30th, exhausted but changed. Josie picked me up from the airport. So, how bad is it? I asked. Your dad hasn't spoken to anyone much. Your mom is hurt but trying to understand. Cameron thinks you're brave but stupid. Autumn is just confused. Great. But Kendra, people are talking. The Instagram post got shared around your school community. Everyone's impressed. You're kind of famous. I hadn't expected that. When I got home, the house was quiet. Mom was in the kitchen. She looked up when I entered, her expression complicated. Hi, honey. Hi, Mom. She hugged me, and I felt her shoulders shake. I was so worried. You were across the world, and we didn't even know. What if something had happened? Nothing happened. I was safe, supervised, and learning incredible things. She pulled back, studying my face. You look different. More confident, maybe? I feel different. Dad appeared in the doorway. We made eye contact. His expression was unreadable. We need to talk, he said. All of us. The family meeting was called for that evening. I had a few hours to prepare. This would be my only chance to make him understand. That afternoon, I organized everything. I printed photos from the summit, me with students from around the world at the UN building presenting our climate policy project. I downloaded letters of recommendation from 2 summit leaders. I compiled the certificate, the project grades, the networking contacts I'd made. If he wanted proof this was worthwhile, I'd bury him in evidence. At 6:05 p.m., we gathered in the living room. Mom, Dad, Cameron, Autumn, and me. Dad sat in his usual chair, arms crossed. I stood, too nervous to sit. Before anyone says anything, I began, I want to show you what I did. I laid out the photos on the coffee table. This is the summit, 20 students from 20 countries. We studied international policy, diplomacy, ethics, and leadership. We worked with former UN ambassadors, Nobel laureates, and policy experts. Dad glanced at the photos but said nothing. This project, I continued, pointing to a thick report, was on sustainable development funding. It was presented to actual policymakers. They used our recommendations in a real proposal. Still nothing from Dad. And these, I held up 2 letters, are from summit directors. One is offering me an internship next summer at the UN. The other is a recommendation for college applications. Cameron whistled softly. That's actually really impressive, Kendra. Dad finally spoke. You lied to us. You manipulated us. You chose strangers over family. I chose my future over a party. It was your grandmother's 80th birthday. And I love Grandma, but Dad, she's proud of me. She said so herself. The only person who has a problem with this is you. His face reddened. That's not true, isn't it? I pulled out my phone and showed him the family group chat. Grandma's message praising me was right there. Even she understands why this mattered? Mom spoke quietly. Richard, maybe we should have listened when she first told us about this opportunity. Don't undermine me, Eleanor. I'm not undermining you. I'm saying our daughter did something brave and impressive, and maybe we should acknowledge that instead of punishing her for it. Dad stood abruptly. She defied me, she lied, and now you're all acting like she's a hero? I'm acting like she's capable, Mom said, her voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. Something we should have recognized earlier. The room went silent. Dad looked around at all of us, seeming to realize he was alone in his position. This isn't over, he muttered, walking out. But something had shifted. For the first time, the family wasn't automatically siding with him. Over the next few days, the tension remained but began to crack. Autumn asked to see all my summit photos, genuinely curious about the different countries and cultures. Cameron admitted he wished he'd had similar opportunities. All I do is football, he said. You're out there changing policy. That's kind of cooler. Mom started asking questions about the UN internship. Would you have to move to New York? For the summer, yes. That's exciting. Scary, but exciting. Even some of Dad's friends reached out. Mr. Caldwell from church called to congratulate me, having seen the summit posts. Your father must be so proud. Geneva, the United Nations. That's remarkable, Kendra. I wondered if Dad had corrected him. A week after I returned, Josie and I went for coffee. So, was it worth it? She asked. Every second. Even the family drama? I thought about it. Especially the family drama, because it forced something into the open that needed addressing. My dad has been controlling my achievements for years. This finally broke that pattern. He's still not talking to you, though. Not yet, but he will, because he's losing something now. He's losing the narrative where he's the supportive father. That night, something unexpected happened. Grandma called and asked if she could visit. She lived 2 hours away, and impromptu visits weren't her style. She arrived the next afternoon, hugged me tight, and asked to see everything from Geneva. We sat in my room for 2 hours. I showed her photos, explained the projects, shared stories about the other students. She listened intently, asking thoughtful questions. "Your grandfather would have loved this," she said finally. "He always said travel and education were the greatest gifts you could give yourself." "I wish Dad saw it that way," she sighed. "Your father is complicated. He was the youngest of 5 children. His siblings were all accomplished, successful. He always felt like he was competing for attention and approval. When he finally became a father, I think he wanted to be the star of his own family story. Your achievements threaten that narrative." "That's not fair to me." "No, it's not. But understanding it might help you be patient with him." She paused. "Though between you and me, you did the right thing. Sometimes you have to fight for your dreams, even when family doesn't understand." She stayed for dinner. Dad was quiet throughout, but I noticed him watching Grandma's interaction with me, watching how proud she was. After she left, he went to his office and closed the door. The breakthrough came 2 weeks after my return. Dad knocked on my door late one evening. "Can I come in?" "Sure." He sat on my desk chair, looking uncomfortable. We sat in silence for a long moment. "I've been thinking," he finally said, "about what your grandmother said about Grandpa." "She told you?" "She told me I was being stubborn and foolish, that I was letting my own insecurities damage my relationship with my daughter." He looked at me. "Was I really that dismissive of your achievements?" I could have lied to smooth things over, but I didn't. "Yes, for years. I have a list, actually. Every time you minimized something I accomplished or compared me unfavorably to Cameron or Autumn." "Can I see it?" I pulled up the document on my laptop. He read through it slowly, his expression growing darker. When he finished, he looked genuinely shaken. "I didn't realize. I thought I was keeping you humble, keeping you grounded." "You were keeping me small." He nodded slowly. "I'm sorry, Kendra. I'm truly sorry. I don't know if that's enough, but I mean it." It wasn't enough. Not yet. But it was a start. "Why did you cancel my trip?" I asked. "Honestly, because I was scared." "Of what?" "That you'd outgrow us. That you'd realize you were meant for bigger things than this family, this town. That we'd lose you." His admission hung between us. "Dad, achieving things doesn't mean I don't love you. It means I'm growing into the person I'm supposed to be." "I see that now, or I'm starting to." He gestured to my laptop. "Can I see the summit stuff, the projects, the certificates, everything?" I spent the next hour walking him through it all. The policy debates, the international students I'd met, the connections I'd made, the internship offer. For the first time in years, he listened without interrupting or dismissing. When I showed him the letter from the former ambassador, he read it twice. "She says you have exceptional diplomatic instincts and analytical rigor. That's high praise." It meant a lot coming from her. He looked at the group photo from the closing ceremony. "You're happy in this picture? Really happy?" I am. "Dad, this is what I want to do with my life. International relations, policy work, maybe diplomacy. I know it's not traditional or stable, but it's my passion." He nodded slowly. "I never asked you what you wanted. I just assumed you'd follow a safe path. Get a business degree, work locally, stay close to family." "That's not me." "No," he agreed. "It's not, and I should have seen that earlier." The conversation didn't fix everything, but it opened a door. Over the following weeks, Dad made efforts. Small ones, but genuine. He asked about my college applications, specifically which schools had strong international relations programs. He shared an article about young women in diplomacy. He even mentioned the summit to his friends, no longer pretending I'd been at a lake house. At a family dinner, Uncle Wade asked about my summer. Before I could answer, Dad spoke up. Kendra was selected for an elite leadership summit in Geneva. 20 students worldwide. She studied at the UN and developed policy proposals with international experts. I nearly dropped my fork. Cameron caught my eye and smiled. Dad continued, "She's been offered an internship next summer. We're very proud of her." It was the first time he'd said it. Proud. Mom reached under the table and squeezed my hand. After dinner, I pulled Dad aside. "Thank you for that. I should have said it months ago, years ago. You said it now. That matters." He looked uncomfortable, then said, "I'm working on it, Kendra. Being better. Seeing you instead of my own fears. That's all I ask." September arrived, and with it, senior year. The summit had changed me. I carried myself differently, spoke up more in class, took on leadership roles with confidence. My teachers noticed. Mrs. Brennan, my government teacher, asked if I'd speak to her class about the Geneva experience. I agreed, giving a presentation about international cooperation and youth leadership. Afterward, several students approached me with questions. One junior, a shy girl named Iris, asked, "How did you get selected? I want to apply for programs like that, but I don't think I'm good enough." "You're probably better than you think," I told her. "I almost didn't apply because I doubted myself. Don't let fear make your decisions." She thanked me, and I realized I was paying forward the encouragement I'd received. The college application season was intense. I applied to 8 schools, all with strong international relations programs: Georgetown, American University, George Washington, Tufts, Johns Hopkins. Dad helped me review my essays. He even suggested I emphasize the Geneva experience more prominently. "This is your differentiator," he said. "Most high school students don't have UN-level experience." Coming from him, that acknowledgement meant everything. In November, I received early acceptance to Georgetown School of Foreign Service. The email arrived during dinner. I screamed so loud, Dad dropped his fork. "What happened? Are you okay?" "I got in. Georgetown, School of Foreign Service." The table erupted. Mom cried. Autumn hugged me. Cameron high-fived me. And Dad? He stood up, walked around the table, and hugged me tight. "I'm proud of you, Kendra. So incredibly proud." We celebrated that night with sparkling cider and takeout Chinese food. Dad toasted, "To Kendra, who knew what she wanted and fought for it, even when her stubborn father tried to stand in her way." "Dad, no, you were right. About Geneva, about your dreams, about everything. You're going to do amazing things." Looking around the table at my family, I felt a completeness I hadn't felt in years. Not because everything was perfect, but because we'd fought through something hard and come out better. Later, alone in my room, I looked at the Geneva photos on my wall. The person in those pictures looked confident, capable, happy. I'd fought for her. I'd lied, defied, and risked everything to become her. And I'd do it again. The spring semester brought the news I'd been waiting for. The UN internship was confirmed for the following summer, 8 weeks in New York, working with the Department of Economic and Social Affairs. When I told my family, Dad immediately started planning. "You'll need professional clothes for an office environment and a safe place to stay in New York. Maybe there's student housing or..." "Dad, I'll figure it out." "I know you will, but let me help. Please, I want to support this." It was strange, having his support instead of his resistance. But good strange. He'd meant what he said about changing. In May, our family attended my high school graduation. I graduated as salutatorian, gave a speech about courage and self-advocacy, and received multiple scholarships for college. At the reception afterward, several parents approached Dad to congratulate him on raising such an accomplished daughter. He accepted their praise, but always redirected. "Kendra did this herself. I was just lucky enough to realize I should support her instead of holding her back." Mr. Caldwell clapped him on the shoulder. "That's growth, Richard. That's real parenting." That evening, Dad and I sat on the back porch, watching the sunset. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" "For changing, for trying. I know it wasn't easy." He was quiet for a moment. "You know what scared me most about Geneva?" "What?" "That you'd come back and realize you didn't need us anymore." I looked at him. "That's the thing, Dad. I've never not needed you. I just needed you to see me for who I actually am, not who you wanted me to be." "I see you now." "I know." We sat in comfortable silence as the sky turned pink and orange. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. "Of course." "When I saw those photos of you at the summit, surrounded by all those incredible people, looking so confident and happy, my first reaction was fear. But my second reaction was pride. Not because of what you accomplished, but because of your courage. You risked everything, our relationship, your security, to pursue something you believed in. That's remarkable. I learned it from watching you, I said. You always taught us to stand up for what we believe in. I just wish I'd practiced that with you sooner. You're practicing it now. That matters. He put his arm around my shoulders. Geneva was just the beginning, wasn't it? Yeah, I smiled. Just the beginning. The summer before college, I spent 8 weeks in New York. The internship was challenging, exhausting, and absolutely perfect. I worked on sustainable development research, attended UN meetings, and networked with diplomats and policy experts. Dad called every Sunday to check in, not to criticize or control, but to listen, to ask questions, to be proud. In August, right before I left for Georgetown, our family took a weekend trip. Just the five of us, to a cabin in the mountains. On the last evening, Dad asked if we could talk privately. We walked down to the lake. I want to show you something, he said, pulling out his phone. He showed me a video he'd compiled. Photos and clips from throughout my childhood. Me winning spelling bees, accepting awards, giving presentations, growing and achieving year after year. Set to music, it was beautiful. I made this, he said, because I wanted to remember all those moments I didn't celebrate properly, all those achievements I diminished. I can't change the past, but I can honor it now. I had tears in my eyes. Dad, I'm sorry it took me so long to see you, Kendra. Really see you. But I see you now. And I'm in awe of the woman you've become. We hugged, and this time there was no tension, no fear, no competition. Just love. Looking back, that canceled trip to Geneva was the catalyst for everything. It forced a confrontation that needed to happen. It pushed me to fight for myself when no one else would. It taught me that sometimes the people who love you most can also hold you back. And that's okay as long as you're brave enough to move forward anyway. If only I'd known how strong I already was, I might not have waited so long to stand up for myself. But maybe the waiting taught me something important. That recognition from others is nice, but recognition from yourself is everything. And that the only permission you need to chase your dreams is your own.